Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 already. Wow, this is already episode 6. Huh. Anyways, welcome to episode 6 of Dual Universe Explorers. Dual Universe Explorers is a group of fans that have come together from the Dual Universe forums to discuss the latest news about the game every week. We talk about what we think that means for the game. We kind of muse about, what we'd like the game to be. Anything related to Dual Universe we talk about here. Sometimes we get a little bit off topic, but, that's what happens. This week, we had a new video come out from the game. We had 5 AMA questions. One was a little bit late, but we had 5 in total this week. So we'll be covering that stuff. We'll be covering some new art that was released on Twitter. And also, I believe we have some other stuff on the agenda to cover, but we'll get to that soon enough. Just want to remind everyone that the opinions expressed on this show are our own, and we're not affiliated with Nova Cork. We're not employees of Nova Cork. We don't really talk to Nova Cork other than to ask them questions, but nothing to do with the show. And with that, I think that it's time to bring in the stars of the show. Guys, who do we have on tonight?
Well, I'm Wardian 2000, Resident Space Wizard, and I'll actually be the host for tonight, so moving on. Next up is, let's see, Mega!
Hello. I'm just a fellow follower of the forums and I like to stick around. I just somehow managed to end up on this podcast, which I really enjoy and hope to keep participating in. Moving on.
I think we have Neapolitan on the show tonight.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm Neo. I love everyone.
All right, I'm Scruggs, and I'm just here for fun.
We have
Actually,
Wilkes. Yeah, we have Wilkes in chat. I think his mic is... He can't use his mic right now.
He's typing something.
We'll just say he said hello.
Yes, he said hello.
All right. Well, that was exciting. Not really. Why don't I hand it off to Wardian, and we can move on with the show. Got a lot to cover tonight, so hopefully we can get through it.
Alrighty. First off, do you actually have the new artwork that they released for the platform?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, apparently they just released some new footage for some the modular platform system that they're going to incorporate. It looks pretty nice. If you get a chance to go to their website, it is actually an interactive image, so you can look up, down, all around, see all the individual different pieces. Yeah, looks kind of neat. If nothing else, it's very decorative.
I kind of wanted to ask them what the scale of that thing was. I mean, compared to the ship that we saw in the video, how big is that landing pad?
Well, it is modular. I imagine you can make it fairly big.
Well, I know that. I just want to know how big the one we're looking at in the screenshots
You mean
is.
like a single square?
Well, I mean, like, if you were to take the ship from the video and you were to set it side by side to this landing pad, or even set it on top of it.
I'm wondering, is this more of like a one of those mesh elements that they were working on? Or will it have some voxel interactions?
I think it's one of those elements that they were working on.
But if you notice too that they've got, that it looks like the larger one is one that maybe just is combination or pieces. Like how they've got 3 on the side there. I think you can combine those in a larger shape if you want.
Yeah, if you get really close to it, if you zoom in, if you open up the link, what those ports actually have a little note to them next to them that says something like "Don't reverse the flows."
Yeah. If nothing else, it shows us how detailed they're making some of the mesh elements. Just looking at this, knowing that I can construct something with it, and that it'll be a lot more interactable than just stacking stairs on top of each other to make longer stairs, for instance. This is kind of nice. Lets you know what kind of direction they're going for the looks and feel of construction in this game.
And I imagine too that you would be able to connect these elements together, say to make like a 6x6, 6x6 landing pad. Then you could take a blueprint of that and then sell different size landing pads to people in the market, so that they don't have to build their own.
True. Also, they had an atmospheric demo. I don't know if you're going to put that up or just give everybody a link to it.
Oh yeah, it's all in the itinerary.
Yep, and I put the link to this to the landing pad in the Twitch chat. So if they want to look at it, anybody who's watching.
Sweet.
Okay. Well, I'll pull up the atmospheric demo here. What I do want to point out about the atmospheric video is that I think it was interesting that we talked about it on the show, 2 weeks ago, and then a week later there was a video footage of it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, it's about 45 seconds long. I'll go ahead and put it up now.
Yes, very pretty.
Very nice. I like the size of those oceans.
I like the bloom effect they have at the edge of the world, just as you see the sun setting behind the edge.
It kind of makes me wonder, like, in the first couple of weeks, like, are people going to be swimming across the ocean? Are we going to have boats?
Even more than that, I was wondering if you'll be able to go out there and build cities above or below the water.
Submarines?
Well, there's nothing stopping them from doing that. That's the beauty about having a voxel building system. You can give a voxel a certain property, like it's buoyant, for instance. And then it can interact with everything else that reacts to buoyancy. So there's nothing that's stopping them from doing that. They just have to put the time in for it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in more related news, Nova Cork is going to have a booth at Gamescom for the during the August 17th to the 19th. So, if you're there, make sure you can visit. It's definitely interesting. Unlike E3, Gamescom is open to the public, so it's not just a trade show. Anybody can go in, walk in, and see everything that they have to offer there. So have fun if you're in the area.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous, but I don't really want to buy a ticket to Europe to go to one conference for the weekend.
You don't like Germany?
It's like a 12-hour flight for me.
I live in the middle of the ocean. It's always a 12-hour flight for me, at least.
Well, I'm envious, but I think this will be a pattern for the future. I don't think that we'll see Nova Cork at a lot of American conferences unless they're the bigger ones like E3. Maybe PAX?
Well,
maybe
PAX. PAX is pretty open to smaller developers and such. And PAX tends to draw a better kind of crowd. It draws the players that want to see the games, not just the people who want to invest in games like E3 does.
Well, if they come to PAX, I will definitely attend. I will make the effort to go.
Same here. Also, the Portal for NovaQuark, the community portal, has reached reached over 200 organizations now. So we're going to have a lot of competition out there.
Survival of the fittest.
I'm waiting to see how many pirate organizations declare war on each other. That ought to be awesome.
Yeah.
Will they have their war, or can they just be in a continuous state of conflict?
All I gotta say is, if you have a giant organization of players and they're all pirates, then in a way, are they not like just becoming part of the machine? Like part of the bureaucratic machine that makes up a giant organization all over again.
True. I suppose it depends on their goals. If they decide to be more like the privateers and attack only certain factions, or they decide, we're just going to rob everybody we come across if you don't fly our colors.
Mercenaries.
Yes.
I kind of feel like they might be something like out of Pirates of the Caribbean 2, where they're like, they get together and
you have the Pirate League.
Yeah, something like that.
Pieces of 8.
I think that's. I mean, I guess what I would imagine it as. The only way I could imagine it working, and even then, it would be, loosely defined working.
Just for that, I'm going to create a pirate tag called Pieces of 8, and so for pirate leagues can have their tag that says Pieces of 8, and everybody knows that they belong to the same pirate organizations. Ought to be awesome.
Yeah. Go ahead and post that in the forums. I'm sure it'll.
Either that, or people will try and burn me at the stake.
No. Hate is against the rules. You didn't know that? Come on.
Yeah. Be nice to people. Be nice to each other. Anyways, moving on.
Yes. AMA recaps.
Well, no, we got one piece of news that we're skipping over.
We do.
Yeah.
We have
NovaQuark.
yes.
The new
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube channel.
Yes. NovaQuark's YouTube channel has reached 3,000 subscribers since E3. So it is growing, and it's actually growing pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like made by a AAA company, so of course it wasn't just going to have, 1 million subscribers overnight, but for a small indie game, which I would argue it's an indie game at this point, quite a bit.
Well, now that they also have more than one video now, so that helps.
I imagine that it'll actually get quite a bit more once Gamescom comes around.
Anyways, moving on. I think it's time for the AMA.
Alrighty. So for question 1, I guess since I'm hosting, I'll take question 1. And It was question number 23. The quote is, will players be able to see which organizations you belong to? Is there a minimum number of players to start an organization? Will the organizations themselves be able to place a limit on which other organizations you can belong to in the case of conflicted factions? Will you be able to be a citizen of a player nation and an employee of a corporation and the leader of the Thursday Space Knitting Club? Will there be a limit to how many organizations you can belong to? Will organizations have a max number of members? If an organization is a member of a larger one, will all of its members be members of the larger one? Legates of the larger one? I guess that's they're stating whether or not you would have some type of rank or duty within that organization. Their reply was, we will definitely make it possible to hide the information about what organization you belong to. Whether the decision to show or not will be made at the level of the player or at the level of the organization is not decided yet. Regarding the various restrictions on organizations, we have not seen any good reason to put constraints there. You should, in principle, be allowed to create a single-player organization, to belong to several organizations, or to have mega-large organizations counting thousands of players, or other organizations. We consider the possibility for an organization to forbid its members to belong to some other organization, but the exact mechanism to do this in a flexible way is not set yet. As for the members of Organization A, that is itself a legate or a member of the Alliance Organization B, they will not be members of B. A will have to designate someone to represent itself at the level of B. This is all linked in the Rights and Duties Management System, and they have a link here to the dev blog and the way organizations work. And have a look at the dev blog for more about those. First off, I'd like to say that was a lot of use of the word organization.
But don't you like how much organization went into that?
Absolutely. Absolutely, sir.
I like that we'll be able to hide our organizations from each other.
Well, it'll definitely make spying easier for some people.
Yeah, well, I think that kind of, adds to the metagame, too. Like, before you accept somebody in your group, you should probably vet them. Maybe.
Yeah, no, like you should. I mean, like there's been, I don't know how many games where, like, just from my own personal experience, like I played Elder Scrolls Online, and we let someone in the organization, and while we were all sleeping, he just robbed all our shit. Because we had the default permissions for everybody has access to the bank, which was, good in a sense because we all knew each other. When we let this person in, we didn't really know them, and we didn't change anything, so he took all our shit. So we changed that really quickly. But I think that it's better. Yeah, it's better to definitely vet people, because if you don't know who you're letting in.
It shouldn't be up to.
At least,
I mean, you should have some responsibility. I think when you let somebody in your organization, you should take on some of the responsibility. I don't think it should be a fully automated thing. I know I'm going to get some disagreement there, though.
Well, aside even from that, it definitely is an example of how flexible the rights and duty management system will be once it's implemented in game.
Will it be kind of like maybe like Facebook? Like you can join groups on Facebook. You can join any group you want on Facebook. It doesn't really seem like there's limits on what you can join, and you can even make your membership of certain groups private.
Yeah, I can see that. I say that not being an expert in Facebook. I'm not the most versed in social media, I admit. By the way, I'm hanging my head in shame right now. All right, so who would like to take question 2?
Just tell someone to do it.
Thank you for volunteering, Neo.
Great. Question 2. This is number 24. The question, will there be some kind of bulletin board in the game so that players can leave requests and announcements? The answer, we have big plans to create the equivalent of job markets for organizations and players to advertise their needs. Announcement could be made into dedicated chat channels, but we could also allow people to create giant screens to broadcast their messages. We need to be careful, however, that this does not turn into a kind of Times Square permanent nightmare, so the exact gameplay around this is not set. But we need people to be able to communicate and, most likely, to make the efficiency of this communication depending on costly investments. This will create an in-game profession of advertiser from who you could rent access to valuable channels. The end.
I just want to know, can I put one of these giant screens on my ship? Because that would be awesome to be, if you're like a member of cops, you've been robbed by cops or whatever.
I have to disagree. Sorry. I have to disagree with their wish here for it not to be like Times Square. I think it would be kind of awesome. Like, there's a lot of sci-fi movies or like anime that you see, like Cowboy Bebop, when they're flying in space through like gates or whatever. Space has a lot of billboards everywhere, and it's lit up. And when you think of stuff like that, you kind of also think of like Blade Runner. Blade Runner was also very well lit up with signs
Good
everywhere.
Example. Total Recall as well.
Yeah.
all really good examples of how it could be used, but
I
guess
Go ahead.
no. After you, please.
I was going to break the subject by saying that I hope there are a ton of billboards around Frigo Porco's nightclub.
Oh, if they're
Absolutely.
going to allow him billboards, it's going to be ridiculous. You'll be flying from one sector to another, and I can imagine him having billboards set up along the way. Like the sides of, like on the sides of roads in California.
He'll just have his face everywhere.
I cannot wait.
I just keep thinking of the most recent EVE Online trailer where the spaceship just smashes through the billboard.
Mm.
If they're destructible, I am going to recreate that trailer in DU.
See,
Well,
part of me
is-
thinks that you'll bounce off of it, but maybe the screens will be breakable.
Hackable.
Hmm?
I
I
could.
will add explosives to the screens so they detonate right before I hit, just
Well, I
to
hope-
replicate the effect.
I hope that they're kind of dynamic. Like you can choose what you display on them. Because I would rent out screen space even. I mean, if you have a big, huge marketing hub, right, a space station that ends up being like the main trade station for the first couple of months or year or two of the game, would you not pay for space to advertise your stuff, like where most people go?
Well, I suppose it depends on how complex they make it so we can what advertisements we can put up there. If you can get really creative and put like a moving GIF or something up on the giant screens, that could be really interesting and it can draw a lot of attention. If all you can do is put on words, not so much.
Well, I mean, it's still, even putting on words, it's still, big words out where everyone can see them. So, I mean, it's still better than not having it. I think that they want to do something more along the lines of what you're talking about. But they're still not sure how to do it yet. I'm hoping they figure it out.
I think everyone's familiar with what happens when you give the players the ability to freely draw on the surface in game.
You wind up with some really cool art, some Nazi swastikas, and penises.
I mean, I'm okay with the latter as long as it's for the shop called the Master Baiter. And it has to be a fishing shop.
Oh no! As host,
Oh, this is
Time
going
out.
south down real
time
fast.
out.
That's an actual fishing shop, by the way, in San Francisco. So you can't really,
Why does this not surprise me?
it shouldn't.
Anyways,
I
Moving on.
hope that they have some limitations to the profane things that you can all create in the game. Maybe they'll have
Well,
pre-made
I would like a
elements for
reporting
screen.
system with a fast way to report issues and moderators that are in the game or admins in the game 24/7. There should be admins in the game 24/7. Can you imagine a game like DU without some sort of staff available at night?
I think this is going to be one of the legendary pitfalls of this game. My apologies.
You can bring him in.
They'll,
It's cool. You can conference him in. So they want to talk about Dual Universe?
Just pick up. Hey, you're on Dual Universe Explorers. How do you feel about that? Yeah. What,
Anyways,
Yeah,
Moving
hang
on.
on me anyway. So
question number 3 for this week. I guess I can go ahead and take this one. If
Sure.
nobody minds.
Before it.
All right. Question number 25, Wednesday, the 3rd of August, 2016. And the question is, thinking about the possibility of thousands of people playing at launch, will everyone start at the exact same place, or are there talks of multiple ARC ships around a galaxy for people to spawn at? And their answer is, people will all start at the same place. Well, maybe spread a little in the safe area around the ARC ship for practical purposes, but not spaced on various planets. The reason is that we want to create a true MMO with people interacting with other people. Spawning at a central, non-PvP place helps this. Also, traveling within the galaxy will not be a trivial matter in Dual Universe. You'll need ships, then warp drives in those ships, and ultimately stargates that will be created by the players themselves, and require a physical probe to travel for weeks towards the stargate final position to activate it. So, in short, the size of the known universe will expand together with the capabilities of the players. Most known places will have been discovered and likely settled by someone before, so there should be less no man's lands where nothing interesting is happening. As a consequence, spawning around the galaxy would simply disconnect them for a long time, until they are capable of developing and financing the required technology to reconnect the dots. That would cause the community to be fragmented, something contrary to what we want to achieve. So,
This is the exact opposite of what of a game that certain people compare DU to.
No Man's Lands?
No Man's Sky, yeah.
Not really.
Don't get me wrong. I have purchased that game. I am going to play it, but I am somewhat disheartened by the fact that
Well, did you see
I
the
can find all
allusion?
this really cool stuff. Yes.
Did you see the allusion to No Man's Sky in their answer? No Man's Lands?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I'm going to call it from now on. No Man's Lands.
It's just one of those things. It's like I can sit there and discover all these really cool things, but then I can't really share them with anybody, and I don't like that aspect. I like the fact that the developers of DU are making it so I can play this with other people. That's the main focus. Be able to play this with other people, be able to explore with other people, be able to build with other people.
What I think this means is that with everybody starting in the same place, it will of course be the most populated place in the game, so it will be the hub for a very long time. But new players coming in, a year and a half into the game might come in and then go to a docking station where there's shuttles that people are actually flying 24/7, taking people into space to go to the main shipping hub up there, or like the main trading station. Things like, I think if games like Star Wars Galaxies, when it came out, I remember early in the game, that was one of the suggestions, was that you go to the starport and you get on a ship and then you fly somewhere else. Of course, that was all AI and like automated. Every 15 minutes there was a shuttle and then you would be spawned into the shuttle and it would take you. But in a game like Dual Universe, it would be more player driven. In order for stuff like that to happen, you'd actually need players doing it. People might have fun just being bussers, bus drivers.
Yeah, I mean, you can never really assume what people will enjoy most about a game. I'm sure there's somebody that's like, yeah, fuck, I want to shuttle people around and actually do that for fun. I mean, there's people that play flight simulators for fun. So I could assume that there's somebody that was willing to do that.
It does take all kinds.
And that would be even a great thing for like new players to do. Like that would be the new player guide for a period of time. Like a player mate guide would tell other players, like, okay, if you spawn in as a new player, go to the market, pick up a trade contract, pick up some cargo, go to the station or the shuttle station, use some of your starting money to pay for a trip up to the main station up there, and then you can either sell your goods on that market or you can try to get on another ship and go somewhere else to sell stuff.
Will work for transport, apparently.
I mean, that's what a lot of...
Nothing else. No, please go ahead.
I was going to say, that's what a lot of new players, I think, are going to do when the game kind of evolves to the point where the starting ARC ship area is like a very populated, very mature area. I think new players will have to kind of be transporters.
I'm actually very concerned with their idea of starting everyone in the same 30 square kilometers. Because we all know how populated game launches can be.
Well, 30 kilometers is huge. And how big is the map for let's say DayZ? No? Let's look that
I
up.
don't think it's
I'm
even
gonna
that
search it.
big.
I thought DayZ was like 10 kilometers.
I'll look it up.
But is everybody on the same server in DayZ? Like everybody who is ever going to be playing the game?
Nope.
So that's, I think I see your point, Mega, that it's basically you're going to have everybody in the same location on launch day at the same time.
Okay.
And I could see where that might present some issue.
Trinaris is 225 kilometers in size, square.
Yes.
So 30 kilometers is... I don't want to draw it out. I'm sure somebody can put a radius of 30 kilometers on the DayZ map to actually see how big that is. But I imagine it's a pretty large chunk of space. And I know when I start out, I won't be... Unless there's a reason for me to have to come back to the Ark ship, I'm probably going to leave and not come back for a while.
It's definitely a very large starting zone. And considering that everything else just procedurally generates as you expand out, then when you get to different planets, when you go out into space, when everybody explores new territories and areas, we're not going to have to worry too much about the 30-kilometer starting area around the Ark ship.
And I think it also helps because they kind of want to show off that they have the tech to allow for that many people to exist in one place at one time.
Well, and that's what I'm hoping will happen, is that they will be able to handle it, because I mean, I can kind of see what Mega's saying is that, yeah, I know initially we're not going to all stay in the starting area, but I'm talking about like day one, like as soon as the servers are open and everybody logs in, and I'm hoping that they've got it to the point where it will work as intended.
I think that there won't be that many players starting on day one. And I also think that they're going to space it out where like pre-order players of a certain rank get, 3-day early access or 4-day early access. And then every day for every tier of like early buyers. So like a 3-day head start, 2-day head start. And then they can kind of tier it up that way.
Well, if famous MMOs that have lived and died in the past are anything to go by, I think that is not a saving grace. Like, the day that anyone can get in is the day when everything explodes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. DU's kind of rewriting the book on what we expect out of games. I mean, the main reason in games that you have to spawn in different areas is because the games just can't handle that many people in one area.
I mean, currently we have no information on how you will even start the game. Like, will you start at the Ark ship, or will you just be shot out, like, randomly in the 30 square kilometer area? We don't know.
So this may be spread out a little bit within the safe area around the Ark ship, but I'm sure that you'll start pretty close to the actual Novark itself. I personally hope that we will not see privileged head start. As much as I enjoy getting it, I'd just rather see everybody start at the same moment, even if that caused everything to blow up.
Which leads me to just hope there's no player-to-player physical collisions.
No. It's just that some players, their bodies took longer to thaw out from the Ark ship.
That's true.
So I think
we already.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
Please go ahead.
I was going to say Wilkes Chekhov in chat here is talking about an interview. I haven't seen this interview that he's talking about. Saying, kind of about the order that people will go in. Something I want to check out. But it just seemed kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah. JC did an interview this week. I did not have a chance to listen to it today. Did anybody else?
I think Wilkes did.
Wilkes.
I did not, but I know what he's talking about because a lot of that stuff was mentioned before. For the alpha release, the alpha testing, it's supposed to be a representation of like a simulation, so everything that gets done in the by the alpha testers is not going to be represented in game once the game launches in beta and then
Of course
full
not.
launch. Well, we say of course not, but there have been a lot of games out there where what the alpha players did, actually carried over to the rest of the game.
Elder Scrolls
because
Online?
it was cool. Yes, I was about to say mainly because it was cool, but on other times it was just one of those things like, oh look, all these places are already established as trade hubs by this one particular guild, and I just started this game on launch. How did this happen?
Oh, ArcAge.
That too, yeah.
That game that cursed game. Anyways, moving on.
Speak of it.
No, I think it's going to be interesting. Alpha will be a big stress test, I'm sure. I think that's one of the reasons that they're waiting until Q1 to give us alpha is because they're testing it and they want to make sure that they can even handle that many people in the game on day one. I mean, can you imagine if they let 1,000 people into alpha and 1,000 people crash the server? Like, that would be great because it would show like some sort of something they had to fix. But on the other hand, like, they've been touting this game that can support 1,000 players or thousands of players in one area. Like, it would be horrible if their, alpha release crashed because of that. So, I don't know. I can see why this specific thing is going to make people weary about what it means. But it has a lot to do with we've never seen a game that can support that kind of feature. And of course, they want to clean up their code base so that we can experience the game like that from the start, from alpha and on.
I wouldn't be too upset if it crashed. If something legitimate happens and it breaks and they can figure out how to fix it, then that's a good thing.
It is an alpha. I'm not expecting, the game to work perfectly right off the bat.
Now, if it crashes and it's like, well, 600 people logged in and we can't fix it, so I don't know what to think then.
We had 600 people connect and then the game crashed. All right, we give up. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
6+ years work, let's throw it away.
Yep, Kickstarter's over, guys.
Anyways, on a more positive note, why don't we move on?
Yeah. Yes. Don't.
No,
jinx
I have
it
faith
anymore.
in it. They're great guys, and I think it's going to go pretty well.
Oh yeah.
How about I see Shadow Lord Alpha joined. How about you take the next AMA question?
I've been here for a while. Where have you been, Yema?
I've been
Gross.
around. I've been enjoying a nice glass of Tuaca. That's what I've been doing.
It's been down at Porco's. It's
Okay, which day are we on? Thursday?
We're on Thursday.
Hey, yay, I get a short one this time. So, Thursday's question was, can you give us a list with all features that are currently implemented and how they will work, or how you want them to work? And the answer to that one was, we already have an advanced voxel planetary engine with procedural generation, server synchronized building and mining. We are also running a lot of stress tests on our servers to ensure that our multiplayer technology will allow the continuous single shard universe we are aiming at. All the tests made show pretty good metrics for now. Our current focus is to make building and piloting mechanics smooth, user-friendly, fun, and challenging in an MMORPG environment. Of course, this is just the beginning, as many other gameplay features are in the pipeline.
Yep.
So basically, they've got the building, and that's about it.
I mean,
Well,
I
if
think
nothing else, it tells us what they're satisfied with already. Sorry.
That's
I'm-
true.
I mean, we saw the gameplay footage. It's pretty much everything that's in the gameplay
8
footage.
kilometer space station.
Basically, just reinforcing everything that we've been speculating of.
I think it's getting the engine working is the most important thing for them. After that, then actually fleshing out game mechanics.
Yeah, definitely. And, well, and also like I think too that with Let's see. Yeah, no, with like you're saying, yeah, it's basically just they're focusing on getting the most important thing done first, which is getting all the voxel stuff working right. Because I mean that's going to be the core part of the gameplay is building.
In the videos from the past, they've come quite a ways. They've shown you can morph voxels, you can put the voxels down, reshape those voxels that you even put in, snap the elements to the voxels that you construct, and it actually flies, and then you can go and walk on something that you built up in space. That's all pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think when they mentioned that their current focus is on making building and piloting mechanics smooth, I think they're trying to make it as user-friendly as possible. So for other games where you build spaceships and things like that, for instance, like Kerbal Space Program, nobody's going to argue that it's not realistic. It's not easy, though, at all to pilot anything in Kerbal. You just sit there and you slap all these parts together and you're like, okay, it's flying. Now what do I do?
Hope it doesn't blow up.
It doesn't really. Yeah, that game doesn't really have an entry level fun factor.
Right.
You
The
can,
pilot mechanics work, but they're not exactly smooth or user friendly. I'm sure it will be. It's fun as hell blowing up your Kerbals all the time, but eventually people want to move past that in a game like Dual Universe.
I think it's telling that we know how much now is left for them to continue to flesh out to go to alpha. I mean, based on that answer, they want to make piloting mechanics smooth, user-friendly, fun and challenging. I'm assuming they want to add some sort of survival elements like health and damage and etc. Unless it's going to be like Landmark, where everybody was invincible throughout a lot of alpha. Maybe that does bring up the question to me, though, of what they expect to be in alpha.
Well, I don't imagine that there's going to be as many survival elements in alpha, if any, just because they don't want the players in alpha spending all their time growing crops instead of testing out all the other features.
Don't quote me on this, but I believe I remember reading something that there will be no PvP in the alpha.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, that's definitely accurate. They want to focus on just the building aspect of it for the alpha.
I have some hopes that this phase might start to involve developing what the nanoformer will actually look like when it's manipulating voxels instead of the kind of developer like orbs and stuff.
I'm very interested in the mining mechanism. Like, the flashing yellow orb to mine ore doesn't really cut it, does it?
No, but I think they were in like some dev mode, and that was like a voxel editing tool they were using.
Which is why I'm interested.
Oh yeah.
And on those piloting mechanics, didn't they mention something like having script or like little elements you could plug into the HUD on the ships, potentially, like a map or different like compass or whatever, like little things?
They mentioned being able to customize the HUDs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Utilizing HTML5, I believe.
Ooh. That's
Fancy.
Yes. So
I
that
would look forward to that.
That would be interesting, if nothing else, just because that's one. HTML5 is, you can't do a whole lot with it that isn't already pre-established for you, but you can arrange things the way you want, and anybody can do it just by downloading one of those programs for making a website, for instance, and they can manipulate HTML5.
Facebook in Dual Universe.
No.
I don't like Facebook in this universe.
Exactly.
Yes.
Don't you guys want to know when Jimmy finds a new iron node somewhere?
Well, yes,
wanna-
you can steal it, but that's about it.
Oh,
If nothing else,
I hope he
think
leaves his location tag on.
Only if there's a dislike
think-
button.
I think it would be interesting if we could incorporate the HTML5 with DPUs and the rights and management system. So let's say I am at war with a particular faction, or these guys have caused us a lot of grief. I can then set it up so the DPU scans for anybody with that particular tag, which then sends a signal to my HTML5 code on my ship screen, and then says, hey, this guy is one of your enemies, and it just plops up in red flashing lights that one of your the faction enemies is nearby, and then I can go shoot him down.
Assuming his faction isn't hidden.
True. On the other hand, then there could be you could have other things, have a DPU looking for a specific name, so people could actually create bounty boards. You could have a bounty hunter guild, and they can download a script for their DPU that says,
There's
"Hey,
already several
look for these
guilds.
people." Mm-hmm. But I'm saying that now that you can actually have scripts and DPUs and HTML5 codes specifically informing you, hey, one of your bounties is right over there.
That's very interesting, because I'm wondering if they will implement a UI thing that will let you see that without a script.
I don't know if they're going to allow you to do it while you're just walking around in your player avatar, but they've made it clear that they want you to be able to program your ship's HUD to be able to put up information that you get from the DPUs.
Basically, again, this is a recurring thing. Like in EVE Online, you can see who someone is just by the color of the square on their ship. I'm wondering if we'll have some sort of UI over player ships like that.
I want that to be a more manual process. I think that you should have to initiate some sort of scanner or whatever that scans a ship as it's coming towards you, so that you can tell what it is. Because I don't know, Eve. There's a reason they do that in Eve. Because you don't want to have to load a piece of equipment into your ship in order to have to click it in order to scan down somebody to see what their faction is. I mean, you can't also sit inside the cockpit of your ship in Eve.
Yeah, these are slightly different games.
But I would personally like to see it have to be a manual process, like actually clicking something or running some sort of script or program that will launch, that uses the scanners on your ship to actually scan down people, or the radar to scan down what faction people are, maybe who's inside of a ship. I mean, local chat is one thing, but I think it's cooler if somebody's too far away to actually see with the naked eye what they are, just having to click a button that will scan down and tell you what it is as it's approaching you. And your ship might say something like, unknown ship or unknown object, and alert you that there's an unknown object somewhere nearby, and then you click on your scanners. And I guess the reason that I want something like that, or that I would hope there's something like that, is I think that it should also require some energy to do that. I don't know how detailed that mechanic of the game will be, but if maybe you don't have enough energy to run your scanners, you're just kind of dead in the water and hoping whoever's coming towards you is somebody friendly, you don't know.
Well, I kind of like that idea just because it allows a stealth gameplay aspect to the game without having to add something like a cloaking device. If you play a certain way, you can be stealthy in the game, even with your ship.
Yeah, I mean, if you have some sort of sensor on your ship or whatever, some sort of signal emitting device that throws off radar or throws off sensor scanners, you might be able to get pretty close to somebody without them knowing you're there. Or maybe you can evade the direction of where a signal is going out from. I'm thinking of kind of going off here. I'm thinking of Star Wars, and there's Star Wars, Episode 5, I guess it would be. They're in the Millennium Falcon, and they're trying to get away from the Imperial fleet, but they know that they can't escape them. So instead, what they do is they hide like on a Star Destroyer. They're like hiding on the back of it, and the Star Destroyer's like, "We've lost them. We don't know where they are." Nobody seen Star Wars?
No, see, I know exactly what you're talking about. The part where they're hiding on the back of the sensor, and they wait for the garbage to dump out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of that kind of gameplay. Like, if their sensors can't find you, then maybe you could get up really close like that, and like kind of thinking along the lines of the stealth gameplay that Bordian alluded to.
Speaking of stealth gameplay, if we have areas of space where you can just freely scan and detect people from long ranges, I think it would be really cool to have star systems where the chemical composition of the star or whatever disrupts scanners, and you can only tell people apart by visual.
Yeah, I agree.
Could be interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
Sort
see, in
of
space, I think
sorry.
in space, I think the scanner would work more off heat. So if you can make it so your ship doesn't give off any heat, you'd be invisible, basically. Or you could stand next to a hot thing and be basically invisible there.
Approaching from the sun.
Oh, that just gives me so many great ideas. All of these are great ideas. We could be spending a lot of time on this.
Well, why don't we circle around and back to that here in a minute after we cover the next AMA question.
Yes.
Okay. I'll go ahead and read this one. All right. So will Sohan Decker be an NPC in-game? Or is that a hint that at one of the devs' in-game name? Will anything be mentioned in the lore, i.e. Sohan's statue, be something players can see in-game? What are the possibilities of fan stories being added to the game lore? And there is no current plan to represent Sohan in-game as an NPC. However, it might be possible that characters from the lore, like Sohan, will be incarnated from time to time by Nova Corps staff for event purposes, but if it happens, it probably won't be before official release. There will be references to the lore in-game under different forms, such as texts, definitely, or maybe statues, possibly. Now, we don't exclude either to add directly some elements of the lore to discover inside the game. In particular, we are thinking about some hidden artifacts and various things like that. However, it's too soon to talk much about it. Regarding the possibility to add fan stories into the game lore, two kind might be accepted. Stories describing something that have really happened in game, think of battles, intrigues, betrayal, or alliance forging. Fan fictions compatible with the official lore and following some specific guidelines that will be detailed soon. I kind of like the last part of it, that they're considering adding fan stories as possible lore. I think that's kind of cool.
I really like writing, so I'm looking forward to that aspect myself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. I mean, these guidelines. I want the guidelines to come out so we can start writing some stuff.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be awesome, because it's just like, there's I think there's already some good ideas on the forums and and kind of like backstory stuff, but I think if they give us guidelines, it will definitely kind of make that grow even more, because people could be more excited about writing stuff that could actually be in the game as lore.
I hope that along the same note, kind of veering off topic here, but when they release these guidelines, I hope that comes maybe at the same time as some fan site material. I know it's kind of off topic, but I know that there's like a lack of fan site material. There's screenshots and there's like the press release page, but I think Guild Wars maybe even had like packages you could download.
Guild Wars had entire packages you could download just for anybody who wanted to create a fan site. They have less such here.
But back on topic. I don't know who Sohan Decker is. I'm guessing he is from
He's-
the stories.
He's from the fiction that they put out on the dev blog
Okay.
and on the forums for Dual Universe. You see his name. His name is the first thing that pops up on the Dual Universe Part 1 of story.
Ah.
And it's written by Elaine Damasio. I don't know if anybody else has heard of
Didn't they
Elaine
write
Damasio.
some of the stuff for? Was it Life is Strange or?
He's a French writer. He does a lot of stuff for sci-fi and fantasy, and mostly like comics, movies, TV series. I have not read any of this stuff, mainly because it's all in French. But he is apparently very well known in France for this type of work.
Nice. Cayman said also Mirror's Edge.
Did he write Mirror's Edge, or did he do some of the story work?
I'm not sure. That's
Oh.
Cayman wrote that.
I think he did some of the story work for Mirror's Edge.
I think it's safe to say that Dual Universe stories are in good hands.
But we liked this with the story.
I hope that people document when they get in the game. I hope that on day one there's some role players who are documenting everything they're doing, keeping track of it, recording it, because the game is going to change very fast from day one to even 6 months into the game. And I hope that somebody records or documents that stuff and writes it down.
I mean, I hope I get a better computer so I can record it. But yeah.
I mean, it's-
I've actually been talking with the devs about that. I'm going to be recording everything now. On if I will be able to publish it right away or not is something completely different.
I think it'd be great. I mean, because we're never going to see that type of game again. After it goes live, nothing will ever be the same. So 6 months into the game, where we're going out in space, like we do need people like you to document it.
Well, if nothing else, I think we should all get together on Alpha launch and then try and do like a survival series of us trying to get off the planet. All our challenges in doing so.
I'd watch that.
Yes, yes.
I'm down.
It shall be done.
You can all join me and build a giant space base.
I'm actually a very big fan of videos depicting gameplay before the metagame formed, before the players figured out what is optimal to do.
Because everyone's confused together.
Yeah, the mass hysteria is really fun to watch.
Oh man, I like it when a game goes live. Like, I remember when H1Z1 went live and I was watching some people on Twitch streaming it, and every time that they ran into a problem and they were trying to figure out how to do something, like, chat would just fill up with tons of people trying to tell them what to do. Like, press E, no, open it, press E, no, press F on it, and like, the Twitch streamers never watching chat, and then like eventually figuring out what the solution was. Happens with a lot of games.
I can just see it now. We're like building a base or something. It's like, why did your end collapse? Why? Well, because he made his end out of steel and you made your end out of iron. That's why your end collapsed.
Sorry, that won't be a thing though.
Unfortunately.
False advertising.
Well, I guess that kind of finishes up the AMA stuff. You guys want to start taking questions from Twitch?
Sure.
All right.
What do we have? All right, let's look here.
Sammy's got an interesting comment. He says he wonders how Dual Universe will manage how you obtain technologies, such as warp drives, hyperdrives, how long the game is supposed to last before you are able to craft everything, etc.
I think they covered that with the way they wanted the skill systems to work. So when you start learning skills in the game, it'll allow you to build certain types of technologies or research certain types of technologies. They haven't completely given us all the details on that. But if I want to build a warp drive, eventually I'm going to have to learn, a skill that's like warp theory or something along those lines, just as an example.
If you want to build something like an engine, you have to figure out how to make things blow up in a controlled manner.
Right. And I'm sure there's going to be a slight difference between operation and building skills. So that way, the pilot doesn't have to have the building skills to activate the ship on his really high-tech fighter that he just bought or has gotten as part of this organization.
Exactly. Well, I like too that, if you're working with a group of people, you don't all have to know how to build the same thing. So someone can figure out how to build a warp drive. And I'm assuming this is just me making an assumption, and the assumption is that you don't have to learn how to build an engine before you can learn how to build a warp drive. I mean, that would probably be a logical thing, but
also you technically don't need to know how to build an engine in order. That's where it gets really confusing.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't need to know how to build an engine to build a warp drive, then that would be kind of interesting in that, you could have one person focus on building a warp drive, one person focus on building an engine, one person figuring out how to do things like that.
I see it working more like it does in EVE Online, where when you build stuff, or when you train up and stuff, maybe you need industrial level 5 or level 4 before you're able to unlock a specific faction industrial ship blueprint rank. So you need industrial, let's say hypothetically, because I don't remember how the EVE skills work, or how they rack up, but say hypothetically you would need industrial level 5 to use Minmatar, or to start training Minmatar industrial level 1, and then you would need maybe Minmatar industrial level 5 and Caldari industrial level 5 in order to construct a specific type of blueprint or specific thing for specific ships.
I think it'll be kind of a mix of both, just because otherwise you'll wind up with characters who can pilot something, and maybe let's say I get shot up or I crash and I'm exploring or something. It's really going to suck if I can pilot this. I can't fix it though. It's interesting to see.
That'll be hilarious.
Yeah, I think that'd be hilarious too. But we're probably going to see some characters being able to develop more along the lines of
well, I mean, think about it.
Solo and Chewie fixing the Millennium Falcon. They may not be able to do it the best way, but they can get the job done.
But how many movies or stories have been written about ships that crash land, and the pilots aren't necessarily mechanics, so they can't fix it. They might not even have the materials to fix it, so they may just be stranded when they crash places, which in itself is a whole different layer of gameplay.
It's interesting when you say that, because in fiction that happens a lot. In the reality, you look at the guys that go up in the space shuttles and all that stuff, even the guys that are just I'm a biologist, he knows an awful lot about how the space shuttle works, enough to actually do a lot of repairs. They don't
but
send
in this
you up there
game,
not knowing anything.
In this game, I don't see everybody on the ship needing to know how to repair the ship. I see people specializing. If you have a big battleship, not everybody knows how to fix the warp drive. You have people that know how to fix the warp drive, but even scaling it down to fighter ships, I would kind of see the parallel in real life to jet fighters being able to repair their jets when they crash.
I think the parallel that you're trying to draw is fleets of what's it called? Just navy ships. Not everyone on a carrier knows how to drive it.
I could see that. I can't, like I said, I kind of see a balance between the two. I think there's going to be, if you're a specialist pilot, you're not going to be the guy that fixes the ship, or at least most of the time. But you might be able to do some repairs.
I feel that would more depend on the crew's size, because while that may be true for an aircraft carrier, look at a submarine. Those guys, a lot of them know how to fix a bunch of the ship.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of just one component.
Well, maybe that's just something you have to take into account when you let people on your ship. Like if you're flying a little ship, like say a Serenity, Firefly, yeah. So imagine a ship that size, and you're letting people on your ship because like you need temporary crew or whatever. I think it should have to be up to you to make sure that people on the ship know how to repair and do stuff, but it might not be a guarantee.
Well, if nothing else, I think it will say a lot for the way the game is played, even like construction-wise, for those very same reasons. Like, if you make an explorer ship, you may not want to make it with the most high-tech engine that you can put in there, just because most people won't be able to fix it.
Let people upgrade it themselves.
Right. You know, I can pretty much see like people talking about the brick ships. You know, this ship is ugly, but it can take a beating and it's very easy to repair and things like that.
Can you imagine having a ship, crewed? I'm thinking of Firefly now, but like where you have an engine on your ship that the only person on your ship that can fix it is the engineer you have. But they're specialized and like they're your crew. Wherever you go, they're not changing ships or floating around to different corporations or whatever. Like you and your engineer and the people on your ship are like your dedicated crew. You don't go anywhere without them. And you're like all hyper specialized and in taking care of your ship together. I can see both, of course. I just am imagining what that would mean for the game, or what kind of gameplay styles that would open up.
I think all of these viewpoints are all very valid. You know, all of them would make very interesting gameplay ideas. I mean, you could make it work with any of them. We just have to wait and see which way they decide to go with it.
Yes, I would be personally a big fan of just flying my own ship, a large ship that's majorly running on scripts.
Yeah, I don't see myself flying a ship myself. At least not to different planets, things like that. I mostly will probably be just flying around the planet, trying to find some good shit to mine.
Well, even in the first couple of weeks, I mean, we saw that Atmospherics video. I gotta wonder, will people actually make it to other continents before they unlock technology to fly? Or will they make boats? Will they swim there? Will they, like, before people are in space, will there be little wars taking place between different continents and nations on the ground?
I think that depends on how toxic the community is going into it. So,
I also think it depends on the planets themselves, on how they decide to distribute certain resources on a planet, or whether or not when the resources are distributed randomly as it's generated, the planet's generated, how will that work out? You know, you might wind up I'm on this side of the planet and it has absolutely no uranium on it. Crap. I need to go to the other side of the planet. And now I have to find a way to get to the other side of the planet. Which could be an adventure all to itself.
Yeah, somebody can document that.
Tech progression will probably determine that of itself. They have those hovercraft engines, which are probably much separate from actual spacefaring engines.
Well, they have mentioned that they want us to be able to design vehicles other than just space vehicles, so it's not going to be unheard of for people to design
but who's going to take
things like that.
Who will take the initiative? Because if you're spending time training on making, like, say, a hovercraft or a naval ship or whatever, then that's skill training time that you are not allocating to making ships that fly in space. So it's like a sacrifice you have to make for the good of everybody to take on the skill training necessary that you may after you're like making spaceships, you may never go back to making naval ships, but it's a race. Everything in the beginning is a race against time.
I suppose.
I didn't think that they might be separate it might be like a progression, like you have to go through the hovercraft thing, and that'll take at least 2 weeks. Then you'd have to train up the other things that let you get towards the space stuff.
I'd hope.
So,
Yeah,
Or
I'm
it
just
could
really
just-
hoping we're allowed rails that can be actually used.
well, if it's a voxel system and if they have wheels in it, somebody will figure out rails.
They don't have wheels.
They don't have wheels.
No.
No wheels.
It's
Oh, that's right. No motor, no rotors or moving parts yet, like that.
Not yet.
Yet.
No, they've already confirmed no wheels, I think.
with
Well, I think they said they weren't going to have wheels.
I'm crying right now.
I don't remember
with
that. I
the
remember
scripting.
Yeah, you'll have
If
to
that's true,
script
I'm
that kind of
crying.
stuff.
I mean, if you look at the terrain in some of these screenshots, I don't see where large wheeled vehicles would be viable.
I think like a moon lander, Mars rover type vehicles, big huge tires.
We're talking very rough terrain on small radius planets.
But can you
I
imagine
was
landing
trying
on a
to get at
planet
what-
and like having to get out of your ship in a rover or whatever, some sort of land vehicle, all-terrain vehicle to drive around and look around because you don't have fuel or
I imagine
Yeah,
it
that
could
would
be
be
interesting
really-
if, like, depending on how they decide to design certain gameplay elements or the voxels or and such, I may be able to build a ship. The ship may be able to fly in atmosphere. It may not be the best option though. And that's why you would do things like build wheeled vehicles or build, just things that work as aircraft but not spacecraft, for instance.
They did say that the hover vehicles are only going to be a few meters off the ground. And there will not be any kind of wheels.
So
But see, rails might be
essentially-
easier to do than wheels. Because it could technically be considered one construct.
Well, I hate to cut the episode short. I don't know if we're cutting it short. We're a little over an hour now.
Nah, we're overtime.
But why don't we carry this chat off stream, carry on this discussion, and we can wrap up the stream right now. Anybody okay with that,
Alrighty.
everyone? All right.
Yeah, fine with that.
Sounds
Begin
good.
the after party.
Yeah, see everyone at the after party. All right. Who's in chat? Who wants to sign out right now? You got to say bye.
We'll just go from the top to the bottom. Cayman, are you there?
Yep. Bye.
See you later,
Have a good
Cayman.
one.
Bye bye.
Mega. Skip over me real quick, Scruggs.
All right, see you guys next time.
Good Sir Shadowlord Alpha. Goodbye. Oh,
Yes, kick me out of the channel before I get to say goodbye.
That wasn't me.
Alright, later, guys. I will see you next time.
Cheers.
take care.
All right, have a
Um,
good day, everybody.
Mhm. And this is Neo. It was great to have another beautiful and wonderful discussion. I'm out.
Cool. All right. Well, I want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. We'll be here again next Saturday, every Saturday at 9 p.m. Be nice to each other. Over and out.